know what makes you tick. And so I know what buttons to push to get you to buy these shoes or to do this thing.
Any company in Europe or who does business in Europe effectively has to tell you what data they have on you, allow you access to it, and in certain instances, you can request it get deleted.
And, I felt like there's two kinds of people in the world, right? There's publicly chosen leaders and there's self-appointed followers.
I'm a lurker because I'm so terrified of everything that happens. I'm like a 10-year lurker.
Yeah. What else sells itself? Cocaine.
Oh, it does really bring this full circle. I like how you did
like that
yeah.
shit? Jeff, thank you for coming and joining me on the second installment of the DA Perspective, the one-on-one series. So I'd like to give you an opportunity to share with everyone who you are, what you do, why you have valuable things to say.
Well, I think a lot of it is 20-year career at Big Ad and digital agency, and done everything from branding, which is the touchy-feely, through email marketing, which not so touchy-feely. And I look back I wrote the memo that put Nissan and Infinity on Facebook and justified that. And yeah, have just done my best over the years to stay current and relevant, and hopped around in analytics. Here we are. It's one of those knowing a mile wide and maybe a couple inches deep.
Nice. Okay. So pretty long standing career, about 20 years.
Yeah.
So out of those 20 years, what was like the best thing that you feel like you did?
Completely unrelated to actual products.
Yeah.
My favorite thing, what I tell everyone is my greatest career accomplishment, is only having one direct report quit on me in 15 years.
Oh, wow.
So to me,
that's the people thing, the people side.
Yeah, very much so. But cool. If you look at one product, we had, when I was at Epsilon is the biggest ad agency. I ran part of the digital team. 7-8 years ago, we had spec'd out a program for Sears, going to war with Home Depot and Lowe's over gardening equipment, and we came to them with what I'm convinced is the first use of mobile and geo-conquesting. So 48 million emails in Sears, 48 million cell phone numbers. They know where you are at any given time.
Right.
We had a whole program put together where you were a Sears customer and of course opted in, showed up in a Home Depot parking lot or Lowe's, we would shoot you an SMS about 90 seconds after you were there, asking kind of what did we do?
Right.
And giving them 15% off coupon and directions to the nearest Sears store.
Oh, wow.
So it was a really cool pilot. And again, you're talking 7-8 years ago, that technology was pretty easily available.
Well, it's cool to some, but others, it could be a little eerie. So we'll get into that.
Yes,
so we'll definitely get into that. So as I told you previously, and as everyone knows here, I start the conversation with one question after you've established to us who you are. So the question I'll pose to you is, what experiences in your life shape your current political views?
I think if you look at my background, it certainly family's big. Only child of two only children, so it wasn't anything that
only
was.
Only child of two only children.
I have yet to meet another.
I'm so confused.
Maybe someone watching out there also has a mom and a dad who are only children.
Okay, got it.
But
okay,
again,
took me a second.
Yet to meet them. Would love to. So we obviously talked about everything at the dinner table.
Right.
And then the best thing is going off to college, going to Purdue for undergrad, and ending up in a pretty diverse fraternity with a diverse set of friends by about every kind of metric you could look at. And it just really helps kind of shape your perspective, the differences that other people are coming from versus your parents, versus empathy for others. And yeah, it just continues to evolve.
So do you find yourself on one end of the political spectrum in the sense that we have this dichotomy here in the United States, right? We have a red or blue, and there's really, although independents are the largest voting base, they're very underrepresented in any form of media or any form of outlets in general. So where do you find yourself on that spectrum?
I cherry pick from each, and in just about every situation, I end up toward the middle, which is hard because if you look at tried and true quizzes and definitions, I'd fall into libertarian. I mean, I don't care what people say. I really don't. It's not my business. It's not anyone else's business. Decisions. I think looking at the more financial and military, I believe that both are good in certain ways. So yeah, it's hard. It really is. It's hard, especially when things are so polarized. You even look at the rhetoric right now already for 2020, and one side that on the Democrats are seeing who can go furthest left. And then certainly Trump has shown that he can go pretty far right. Want that kind of uniter in chief kind of thing.
Okay. So do you feel that there are certain specific policy discussions that affect your career field?
Absolutely. And the one that I'm watching closest is data and privacy.
Yeah.
You only have to look across the ocean. Europe, who had the whole GDPR, and probably a lot of your viewers and you.
Yeah, no, explain. I'm aware, but I'm sure a lot of people might not be. So if you want to explain to them what that is, yeah.
So GDPR about 18 months ago, I think, went into effect, and I have no idea what the acronym is. Basically, any company in Europe or who does business in Europe effectively has to tell you what data they have on you, allow you access to it, and in certain instances, you can request it get deleted. It was a huge thing that companies rallied against and lobbied against in Europe, but not have the same power over there as here because the regulators pushed it through.
Right.
And you even have to look at like the Chicago Tribune. The Chicago Tribune, you cannot get in Europe because they don't have the systems or honestly the inclination to accommodate GDP. There's dozens, hundreds of different companies. California followed suit with that. They have what has been termed GDPR light. Not law yet. As you can imagine, healthcare companies and marketers and anyone in the world is trying to fight that because California, in a lot of ways, kind of policy. But yeah, that's the biggest one that I'm watching right now because as a marketer, it's harder and harder to target people. And this is the part where there's me, the marketer, who wishes I had everything about each person. I want to know where you are, what your interests are, who your friends are, influences, credit card swipes, things that are
pretty invasive.
Yeah. They really are. And then there's me, the consumer, who has everything on its highest privacy setting, only uses VPN,
right?
And all these.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you're one of those people. You block as much data as you can.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, you're a voracious consumer as a marketer.
Yeah, absolutely. I think.
So how do you find that balance? Like, do you remember when we had that class? And I don't think I prefaced this, but he once taught me. Taught me a lot of things. But I posed a question to you, and I don't feel like I really got a solid answer, which is why you're here right now. No, I'm just kidding.
A lot of pressure.
But yeah, my question to you was, how do you reconcile the business side of marketing, which is to, in my view, is to manipulate human behavior by aggregating the data and essentially just knowing anything and everything about people, and not even just humans like as a group, but like individually. Like, I know what makes you tick, and so I know what buttons to push to get you to buy these shoes or to do this thing, and so how would you? Yeah, how do we reconcile that? Or how far can it go?
It can go incredibly far. And for a while, common sense prevailed. Then, shockingly, a lot of companies got a little bit greedy about the data, and there were some rather high-profile breaches of data and privacy. Target a few years ago was probably the first to really get in trouble with the invasive use by sending the registry, the baby registry,
To the daughter and
like a
because-
teenage daughter,
Yeah.
and those are the kind of things you hear about that terrify you. But when used correctly, and I feel like I'm going off marketing talking point,
That's fine.
but no, because I don't always believe.
Well, and that's something that I want to challenge. If
Yeah.
it's something that you're right. So go there.
Well, I think from just a marketer, what I would tell you is it allows me to serve you better information, better ads.
I think that's what you told me initially. Yeah.
It is. It's absolutely true. And it all comes down, I'm pretty sure I would have added this to the question or the answer as well, that it's all the value proposition. Like, what is the perceived value that I am giving you? So right now, whether you have an Android phone or whether you have a Google phone or Apple, chances are you have on Google Maps on there. Chances are you are actively searching for things using Google. There's infinite things right now that Google, you have given permission. Your calendar, Google has access to. Google has come out and said that we will read your emails in the interest of offering you better products. Nobody's picketing or boycotting Google. The perceived value of being able to find this location and Google knowing that I'm sitting here right now outweighed my concerns.
Yeah, I think the thing is, like, I mean, you are correct to say no one's picketing now, right? Like, no one is boycotting Google. I think the concern would grow if people actually knew the extent to which their information was being used against them. I think that's that veil of ignorance, I believe, is really why people are just like, well, whatever, right? Like, they don't know, you know? And, you know, I use all these products and stuff too, right? So, for instance, like you talked about Google Maps. Every day when I leave somewhere, even if I know how to get where I'm going, I want the fastest, most efficient route. And that's the aggregation of data from everybody's phone pinging the servers and just saying, hey, this is what traffic is moving, right? So those things I think add value. But for me, it's the consumption side. It's the, you know, these $200 boots are in your face constantly, right? And I know you're gonna buy them because I got you to buy them before.
I'm gonna wear them down. Yep,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
you
wear
know?
you down.
And it's gonna be and it's the point like where you know, like Discount Tire, when you buy tires, they put you in the system, and it's like a time interval where they remind you that something, right, about tires. Like, I'm waiting for them to remind you that your shoes are worn down, right? I mean, that one's free. That one's on me. But yeah, no, really, like stuff like that. And so what I mean is, like, you know, in our lifetimes, it may never get to the point where we're robots, right? Being controlled by other powers.
But
I would say towards the end of our lifetimes, it would be, I believe it'll be like wholly apparent, like in the sense that we're no longer actually making decisions for ourselves.
Free will.
And so that's where I'm going with this, is at what point are we going to lose as humans our free will? Because how do I even know if I'm making this decision for myself anymore? You know?
There are less and less opportunities to get in my mind about opposing viewpoints, about other options. The thing that I'm watching a lot of fascination is Alexa and Google Home, because it used to be that you would go to Target, you'd go to wherever, and you maybe would at least skim the boxes of other toothpaste brands. Maybe you'd look to see if one's on sale because people find them relatively interchangeable. Now, if you do the subscribe and save, especially, you're on autopilot. It doesn't matter how many ads you're served. It doesn't matter if your dentist is feeding data to Crest. You're a Colgate guy, probably going to stay a Colgate guy. You're not exploring those. And you see that with anything. You look at political viewpoints and viewpoints of the world. You can aggregate so many things around personal interests. And anytime you see an article or an outlet come up that you don't like, you can instantly take it out. And I find that really sad. There was a great ad campaign about 2 years ago. I think it was by New York Times. And of course, they said that they were wonderful, but they said, so are these other outlets. They listed everything from Wall Street Journal, in a lot of ways, a very different mindset, different approach to politics and business, to Barron's, to, TV shows, MSNBC. It was great because you actually sadly have to seek the stuff out rather than just having it naturally come across your feed.
Like it seems that way now, but think about all day, every day, how many things are put in front of our face. So like even with traditional advertising, right? Mm-hmm. It was, it's billboards, it's like TV commercials, stuff like that. And so it's getting to the point where like advertisers, as much as marketers, and one of the things that I learned when I was at DePaul was that like the communication career fields that are like segmented into marketing or into, some people don't feel marketing is communications, although I do, because I feel like everything is integrated marketing. So it's PR, advertising, right? It's like this funnel. But it's getting so clever that sometimes you don't even know that something's being presented to you as like an advert or a marketing ploy. Like you think you're genuinely stumbling upon this information on your journey through the forest.
Yep.
But it's not. And so again, I hinge on this thing of like, are we losing our sense of self and humanity because of consumerism, because of the need and the greed of capitalist companies who have one debt, and it's the shareholders. And if they don't make more money this year, that bad things happen to the company. People take their stock out, right?
This quarter.
Per quarter, you're correct.
No one's even looking ahead 5-10 years what they're doing to the environment, to rights, to anything.
Yeah, so again, that's where my initial question is like, how do we reconcile the desire for consumption of consumers because the businesses need to continuously eat and grow? So how do you say, you know what, I think we've had enough, or is there enough?
I feel like we're somewhat at a tipping point where at least there's lip service.
As far as like
more sustainability, more products being rolled out. I look at what just happened with the Impossible Burger.
Yeah.
And not in any way healthier, actually, than a meat patty. Yeah. But the way that it's been built around sustainability, around lifestyle, around those type of things, I feel is a pivot point. I personally, I'm big on animal obviously animal testing. And I have an app on my phone that actually scans the UPC codes of any product that you could get, called Cruelty Cutter. And it will tell you if it's tested on or not. And I do not. If I can avoid it, I don't buy anything tested on animals. By method or 7th generation, that kind of stuff. But I saw something for the first time just a couple weeks ago. I wish I could remember to give them a quick plug what product it was, but they actually had on the back that they're anti-animal testing. No animals are used in. And that, maybe it's just a small market, but it's those small little things where somewhere someone in that company was able to sell into all the different layers that this matters and that this is happening, and kind of take small wins like that as much as anything.
Yeah, so I asked a buddy of mine when we shot the last episode because he identified as a vegan, and I asked him the question, do you feel like the advent of alternative meats is to exploit a market or to cater to a market? Because sometimes I find like certain products or companies or whatever, they'll position themselves because it's like good for business.
Absolutely.
Like they don't give a shit. They don't care about
all
these
these
people.
personas somewhere saying this market is not met.
Exactly. They see, They see an opportunity to capitalize on on what they would say are the unmet needs of the market. Whereas I, not in all instances, but in a lot of instances, I just see it as exploitation of people, you know? And so,
Well,
yeah.
is it a bad thing, though, that all of a sudden your friend went from a handful of options and restaurants to, in theory, I don't know enough about it, but being able to eat a Burger King Whopper?
Well, so that was the thing that I was saying, though, right? And I don't mean to be insensitive or anything, but
No.
I like jokingly said, vegetarians or vegans, whatever, were like, we don't want to eat meat, but if you can make something that tastes exactly like it, it's just
Right.
kind of like, can we have it both ways? But no, I see both sides of that coin. I do. I see both sides of the unmet needs, but also the exploitation part. So for me, it's like, when we talk about corporate social responsibility, I want to believe that they're entering that space because they genuinely want to serve unmet need. But having just finished an MBA, right, I truly understand that it's about the bottom line. If it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense, right?
Here's a good debate that I had not too long ago over some. Who do you think did more good for the world? Both are phenomenal people, phenomenal impacts, Mother Teresa or Bill Gates?
So it all depends on how you quantify global impact, right? So if I can quantify global impact with feelings and love, and
who
hope,
has helped more people?
Right,
the
but-
altruistic side.
Well, it depends on what you feel. Yeah, and I that is a good question. And then again, it depends on what barometer that we're using, like what measurement device that we're using to measure that global impact.
Strictly from a charitable sense, not the ease of use that people have because of Windows and those kind of things.
Yeah, okay, so charitable. But that's the thing, is they're both incredibly altruistic people. And I will say, though, of the major capitalist people in the world, I mean, Bill Gates is a pretty solid dude.
Good guy.
No, he's a pretty solid dude. I mean, he's one in a million, not because he has millions, billions, right? But really, I mean, he is. He's an outlier. So you don't get to use, but you don't get to use him as a, right? But that's what I mean. You don't get to cherry pick, right? So if we look at collectively,
there's a lot of saints too.
That's fair. But if we look at like collectively of the Bill Gates types, and we take him out of the equation, then hands down, it's someone who just spread love, hope, and energy across the world that put people at ease. Because I think personally that humans, we're always looking for answers for things. We're not always looking for shoes. We're always looking for something that makes us feel comfortable and okay in a crazy world that we didn't create and we have no idea what's going on. The marketers come through and they say, hey, you're going to feel better when you buy these shoes. So they prey on that.
I instantly thought of the insight. The insight is not that Derek wants to get new shoes.
Yeah.
The insight that a marketer would use is that Derek wants to feel more comfortable and stylish and forward-looking in a way that represents how he wants to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing is like, I struggle with it. And it's funny because my aunt is an advertising producer, and she's been that for many years. Do you remember the Incredible Edible Egg?
Of course.
Bro, that was her jam.
Nice.
Like, yeah, she worked on that. Yeah,
She's in the Advertising Hall of Fame if she isn't.
She's in my Advertising Hall of Fame for sure. No, I love her to death. I've learned a lot from her, and even from me entering this marketing space, I think about her a lot, right? Because I think about the conversations that her and I had throughout the years of me growing up into like what I'm today and what I'm still becoming and whatever. But I had tough talks with her all the time. And it was always about like what we're talking about now, about the true intentions of advertising and, is it the devil? Are you selling me things I don't need and stuff like that? And, to her credit, she obviously was biased in the sense that that's her career, but she was also very level-headed in how we spoke about things. And sometimes we just agreed to disagree,
Sounds like family.
Yeah. But yeah, it was, so I've had this insight into that world from like very early on. And so it kind of cued me in. So it's ironic that I find myself now having started my own marketing agency or whatever, but I'm on a mission to like do it the right way and for the right reasons, because I'm not saying it has to all be bad, you know?
Absolutely. Bear with me. The story is not going to go where you think it is.
Okay.
I think in a very slap in the face kind of way, one of the best things that happened for corporate responsibility and corporate sustainability was Pepsi thinking that Kylie Jenner could cure racism, because it was so empty, so blatant that it was just a money grab, and they were crucified for it so much that in theory, every ad agency and marketing agency around the country the next day was crossing off very shallow things and pressing their clients, hopefully, to do something more authentic or risk the ire of consumers everywhere than that. I think that was actually a very hard lesson for them, but a good one for the rest of business, that you can't fake this stuff. You just can't.
And I've said that for many years to just even my friends, you know, because with social media, I mean, it's very easy to fabricate a reality online for yourself, but also for people who are perceiving you purely through a lens that you control and that you're creating. And I always say, you know, sometimes when these people meet you in real life, I mean, they're like, "Yo, this is not the same person."
Never meet your heroes.
Yeah, and then you wonder why things aren't working out the way that you would like them to, or that you think you've been working towards. It's because for me, and especially just goes back to what I was saying about changing the game for marketing communications, is I hinge, like, the foundation of everything I do when I work with somebody is all about authenticity and being genuine, because I truly believe that cocaine sells itself, right? So if you have a genuine product and you have something good that people want, they're gonna just keep gravitating towards that. And you can't fake that. If you give somebody a bunk bag of some yay, they're not coming back. And I've started to use this as an example. It was something I heard a long time ago as a child in rap song or something. And but it really, like, it made me really think, you know, like, there are certain things in the world that need no advertisement. It just sells itself. And so, yeah. How do you feel about Instagram taking away the forward-facing likes? Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I did. In fact, as you were talking, one of the first things I thought about was I forget if you're on Reddit. I love going to Reddit.
I'm a prolific Redditor, although, what's your Reddit handle?
Oh, I'm a lurker because I'm so terrified of everything that happens. I'm like a 10-year lurker.
So funny. But ask people what the Reddit handle is. It's the thing. You're never supposed to give it to anyone, ever.
Right.
Yeah, ever. But anyways, go ahead.
But it's that whole Instagram versus reality subreddit that I find just so fascinating. And
yeah,
whether it's food, it's usually influencers, those kind of things. But yeah, I think it's a good thing. And the way that they're doing it, I think, is smart. They're not forcing it on anyone. Because there are some people, right or wrong, who still need that endorphin rush from seeing a certain number of likes. And that's great for them.
You'll still get that.
Right. And Instagram will still offer that. But you know what? If you're kind of like me and you just post pictures more as a photo album for yourself to be able to look through, I don't really care about like. It's even though there's
a good dopamine hit, man. Even I fall victim to the same thing, really. And I have a conversation with myself about a lot of different things, but especially when it comes to social media, because as you know, you definitely, and not a dig at your age or anything, right, but you know, I have been here for the whole thing, and more or less as an adult for the whole thing,
totally,
right, a young adult even, right. So as like more like certain articles would come out where people were kind of challenging social media as far as like how it would make people feel and the things that were happening and stuff, like I really gravitated towards the alternative thinking for it. That wasn't, meaning these articles were kind of not anti, but they were like challenging. They were, you know, because there's a bunch of articles that are just like very they make it seem so glamorous. They make it seem like there's nothing wrong with it. Like everything's cool. Instagram's got a new feature. You can snap 80,000 more times a minute now, like, or whatever, right? So I really paid attention to like the studies that were being done about human behavior and emotional states and things like that. So I really tell myself when I post something, like, hey, don't look at it for like a day, or don't look at it for like 3 hours, or don't, because even like I mean. That dopamine hit, man, it does. And it's so subliminal. And I see a lot of people online on my social media feeds when I use them, that they're, again, I'm not their therapist. I'm not, right. I haven't profiled them other than right?
Yeah.
But I feel like they're caught up in that loop.
Totally.
They're really caught up in it, and I just wish I could just be like, hey,
It's all right.
Yeah, just give it a break.
All right to not be all right.
It's all right to not be all right, you know? But, you know, like you were saying, for some people, they live or die by the like. And I want to get back to a place where we don't, right? Like where we live or die by like who we are and the public perception of us, but the reality part of the public perception, not the fabricated reality.
Which in a way is so weird, isn't it? Because different channels become different extensions of ourselves. I don't really use Facebook anymore, but if you want to lose friends and family, start posting your political beliefs.
Yeah, I'll probably, once I start posting these out there, I mean, but yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
If you want to show the perfect family gathered around just a normal Thursday evening meal that's 7 courses, you'll be on Instagram.
Yeah.
On Twitter, you're just a raving lunatic in the moment because someone looked at you wrong. The waiter was too slow to bring out a drink.
Really?
It's really weird. Just again, what's almost considered acceptable for each channel.
Yeah, so I've definitely noticed that as well. So like Instagram is more aesthetically driven. It's a lot of like derrieres and, you know,
I don't know what you're following.
Yeah, well, I'm not though, is what I'm saying. Yeah. And to be honest, I actually just started. So I use Instagram exclusively to communicate with my family in South Texas for probably about the last year and a half. The only reason I had it. And then when I started Philomathy, which is my agency, I started managing it for my clients. But I still never used it personally, which I thought was incredibly ironic. But it was kind of good because it gave me like a very non-biased, non-influenced work ethic towards Instagram because I was actually working instead of just scrolling, right?
Plus, you were a skeptical consumer.
Yeah.
The worst thing that happens in any marketing agency or company is that you lose sight of being a person. I mean, unfortunately, most people like you and I don't care when, I hate to pick on toothpaste, but they redesign the logo. And yet there's relaunches and millions and things.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's always the litmus test where you ask someone, would you care about this if you didn't work for this company? 90% of the time, it's no.
Yeah, I was laughing because I've exclusively used Rembrandt toothpaste for probably like 10 some odd years, and I distinctly remember when they changed the packaging, and I was like,
Did
wow.
you recover okay?
I mean, I was fine.
Did you hoard all the old ones?
Honestly, okay. It was a more modern touch, and I actually liked it more. Okay. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I like the product because it works. But yeah, that's funny.
You have very white teeth.
Thanks. Yeah. So people ask me all the time what it is, and literally, I use. This is probably one of the only elitist things I do. I use $7 toothpaste, $7 tube. Can't get over it.
Hey, capitalist.
I know, seriously. I'm just another cog in the wheel of consumerism. But yeah, so back to the Instagram thing with the likes. So I know that what they're going to do is they're going to, for certain accounts, they're going to hide the likes from your followers or whatever. But you, as the owner of the account, you're still going to be able to see them on your side. So I think in a business sense, because obviously I'm my ears to the streets for that because that's part of what I do for work. I think you'll still be able to kind of pump your brand with it, but I think it might lead to a little bit more authenticity as far as like what you're actually getting in return from your followers, right? So there'll probably be a lot less people who jump on the like hype train, right? Because sometimes we see numbers go up, like on Reddit even.
Totally.
Something will start getting upvoted and everyone will just jump on the train, and it could just be really not worthy of being upvoted. But it's just
crazy things that end up on the front page.
People like the hype train, man. So did you watch any of the impeachment hearings today?
Did not.
Or
no.
sorry, they're not. They're the impeachment inquiry hearings.
Yeah, it's like but
it's
no,
the investigation.
I did not.
Okay, so on face value, are you familiar with why it's happening?
Yeah.
Okay, so what is your initial conception of the very general? That they said the president did this. Is this okay or not? What do you feel?
It's all context, and I hate to put it like that, but
you did. No, just kidding. Go ahead.
But I think that in a world of black and white, at least if you listen to talking heads or whatever channel you're watching, feed you're getting, everything's black and white. I watch MSNBC and the world's falling apart and devil's here and there.
Right.
You watch Fox News or read Turning Point stuff and everything is a lie. How are these people even Americans?
Yeah.
I think politics has always, in a way, been that. I doubt that there is much that's been done in the last, doing math in my 3 years, that wasn't done before. I mean, it's probably not exactly right, but I mean, living in Chicago, I mean, there's a certain cost of business to get things done.
That's fair.
And now, targeting political opponents, certainly not cool. Especially the Republicans should know that that's not a good way to stay in office. But I mean, all administrations have their skeleton.
So more specifically, this. So I was listening to it today. I'm definitely leaning more one way than the other on it. But one of the things that they were saying today was the circumstances into which that the aid was being withheld. So, one side was constantly bringing up Obama administration, and like there was withholding. They were talking about the type of aid that was being given to Ukraine. So Obama gave Ukraine blankets and MREs. That was their buzzwords. It was blankets and MREs. One of the GOP administrators or legislators was trying to not equate the aid that was being given. So in a sense, trying to say that because Trump was giving them weapons, that it was a better form of aid, and it was just something that should just be left alone. And so I took issue with the fact that he didn't feel like eating was as important as killing
and staying warm.
So I thought that was very not good. But so basically, what they were saying was that kind of to your point, if aid is being withheld, it's probably been done this way for a long time, like bargaining chips, right? But I think in this instance, the problem is the fact that Ukraine is actively protecting itself from an aggressor. Like people are actively being killed. So to withhold that aid that would be used to protect themselves was essentially kind of not a death sentence, not to be extreme, but it's kind of like, and I think that's the extremity of this whole argument. And don't get me wrong, I think it's a lot of it's political theater and stuff, but I think and
that's where I think context comes in. I mean, look at the Kurds. I mean, completely left out to dry, blindsided. Talk about aid. I mean, there were boots physically, literally protecting family.
Yeah.
My biggest fear is that we're just going to get, if we're not already in it, this venomous cycle that whoever the next president is, it could be George Washington back from the dead, and whatever party he's in,
the ghost of G-Dubs.
Yeah, the other party's going to find something about it, and
right.
Again, it's just a tough point right now. I guess politics in general, anyone's approval rating. We talk about any president's approval rating. 40s is bad, 50s doing okay, 60s doing pretty well. When it's 4 or 5 times the approval rating of Congress and all those others, it's just hard to appreciate that there's anything other than personal motives and vendettas really motivating any of them.
So are you following the presidential?
Yes.
Okay. So do you have, because both sides are actively campaigning now, so we can ask the question, are you favoring one candidate over the other, or what are you feeling right now?
I'm just kicking the tires at this.
Yeah.
I think if you look at, I don't even know if we know who the final candidates even are.
Oh, we had some new entries into the Democratic side.
Right. You've got Bloomberg, the Massachusetts governor.
Somebody else just got in today. I don't even know who this person is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to keep up, right?
Is this what we're doing? Are we auditioning right now to be the next candidate?
I'm I'm a Bernie Sanders supporter, so I wouldn't challenge him, but I would definitely join his ticket. Yeah. So I'm not, but you can audition now if you'd like.
And on the opposite side, I don't know. I can't see Trump actually running for re-election.
You really don't think he's going to run for re-election? I mean, he's campaigning now. You know that, right?
I know. He's having rallies.
He's campaigning now, yeah.
But
he raised like 126 million or something crazy like that.
Yeah, that first day of the impeachment.
Yeah.
But never really wanted to be president, and he's always known to throw massive curveballs.
I mean, that's all anecdotal, right? Because we don't actually know what he wanted.
Right.
We could perceive from his actions. And I will say that there are some, clearly he doesn't take it as seriously as some of us would like him to. But then other parts of it he takes incredibly serious. But I think that's more pomp and circumstance, like showboating kind of thing.
I feel like one day in 2020, September, we're all going to wake up to that 4 a.m. tweet about how
like I'm out,
I'm done. I just can't do it, and I don't.
He's like, I won, but I don't even want to do it.
Yeah. He's like, I could have won. I would have had the biggest landslide ever. This bigly votes for me and everything.
Bigly, yeah.
I just want to go to Key Largo and I want to chill.
Mar-a-Lago. Don't get it right. Don't get it wrong. He'll be upset.
There's a Key Largo though.
There's a Key Largo.
Okay.
His is Mar-a-Lago, which actually he just changed his residence from New York to Florida. So he's getting ready to retire.
Tired
right?
of New Yorkers. So I'm not convinced that technically November 2020 is running for re-election.
That's interesting. I haven't heard anyone say that, but I mean, we don't know that you're wrong.
He loves these surprises. I feel like he thrives on
really just throw the papers up in the sky and just be like,
it's the showmanship. Yeah, I don't get the sense that he necessarily cares who takes over the reins.
Yeah,
then the Republicans next. But
it's so ironic to me that like this individual has been able to just do whatever he wants, like literally whatever from like literally whatever he wants, from admitting to assaulting women on tape to just
Billy Bush still can't find a job.
And he's the one that took the brunt of it. Yeah, he was doing the rounds. I watched The View like every day. I love that show.
You're that guy.
I am that guy. I love The View. It's a different perspective. It's a
totally
different
is.
view, right? So, anyways, I believe he was on there and he was talking about it too. Just kind of like media blackout kind of thing. I can't remember if he did Morning Joe either. I kind of stopped watching Morning Joe. It got really weird for me.
Yeah.
It's really weird. Sometimes I don't feel like I would be welcome in that room. Like not that I wouldn't have anything good to say, but I just feel like there's so many barriers to get in there in the first place that it's a pretty well-formed narrative. You know what I mean?
I think you've hit on the biggest problem.
Yeah.
The most influential news source, the narrative's already there. And to shoehorn someone else in with an opposing narrative, if they're not willing to be kicking boy. I mean, I always feel sorry for any Republican who goes on MSNBC.
Or vice versa on
Fox News.
Which Bernie Sanders did. He wasn't scared.
No, I always respect it, but I always am like, oh man,
It's gonna be
a tough 20 minutes for you.
It's kind of like going in, right? You're going in the lion's den and you're wearing like a meat dress, like the Lady Gaga dress. Remember
Yeah,
that?
I do.
Yeah. So what do you think about celebrities with like political endorsements or becoming active? Do you think that they should use their platform for those things, or they should just shut up and do music or whatever?
I think overall, I kind of treat most of those celebrity endorsements or clauses or whatever with great skepticism.
Mm-hmm. Why is that?
I'm not running around denying any climate change or anything like that, but I do appreciate things that point out when Leonardo DiCaprio is pointing the finger and saying this is number one cause for him, and he's got private jets that take him everywhere. He's got 4 or 5 homes. I'm sorry, Bernie with his 3 homes is not exactly doing the global footprint any favors, but
Yeah.
it's those
That's
kind of
fair.
things that just kind of make me scratch my head. And one of the few that I would take seriously, and this is a little bit more old school, she's not in the public eye anymore. Angelina Jolie walks the walk. I mean, oh my
Yeah.
God, she does adopt the kids. She does visit the areas that are impoverished. You can tell that means the world to her. So something like that, very serious. On the other side, Gary Sinise and the troops. That guy is always taking troops over, seeing them overseas, taking, just saw something. He took like 1,000 kids to some basketball or hockey game of fallen soldiers. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a sincere thing as opposed to, again, someone with 20 homes and their own private jets and takes the Escalade or Navigator a mile to go.
The Target.
Yeah.
And then have someone else get out of the car and get their stuff.
I don't know that I really see that.
So that's an interesting point that you made. Because even people like Bernie Sanders, I mean, yeah, he does have 3 homes.
3 homes.
And I know he recently became a millionaire, and everyone made a big stink about that. Which is kind of like, I feel like mildly rightfully so, right? And so even with me, I think about that, like that balance, right? So what's the balance? Because like I like nice things. If I had enough money to have 3 houses in different parts of the world, even not just the United States, I mean, I feel like I would take advantage of that because at the end of the day, we only got one shot. I'm only here once, right? And not to say that I can't actively work towards things to make things better in the future, but I'm still of the party that like, I still kind of want to get what I can get while the getting's good. But what's the balance, right?
Right, because at the same time, if everyone's going that route,
everyone kind of is though. Like, but the difference is the mindset, right? So, so the thing is like, we can have people in the world who have 3 houses and they're complete assholes. They don't care about anything else.
1 house in the right.
True, right? And we can have people that have 3 houses because they've worked, and mind you, you use them as an example, so I'm gonna tell you. I mean, the guy's like 80 years old, right? So it's just like it took him his entire life to get 3 houses, right? So, you know, it's one of those things where it's like we should reward work and a lifetime of service to whatever industry you're in, with just kind of like good on you for making enough to have 3 houses and not being an asshole about it and still trying to fix the world, right? So I had a conversation with a buddy of mine. He's the CEO of a communications company. And, you know, I felt like there's 2 kinds of people in the world, right? There's publicly chosen leaders and there's self-appointed followers, right? Some people don't want to lead.
Right.
They just want a roof over their head. They want the means to take care of their family, buy themselves things that make them feel good sometimes, you know, food, those kind of things, right? And as a publicly chosen leader, it's your responsibility to ensure that those people have those things, right? And so on the leader side, it's like, what kind of leader are you, right? Because the reality is that as a leader, you're always going to have more resources than usually the self-appointed followers. And so the world will allow you to be a billionaire like Bill Gates, as long as you're not a shitty billionaire. You know what I mean? And so I guess to push back on the Bernie 3 house thing, you know, it's kind of like that kind of idea, you know?
Well, I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of Bernie, but I respect that he just became a millionaire recently. Look at all these politicians, both sides. The net worth is, I mean, when they enter office, they're
already millionaires. They don't even need the money.
Right. And then after they leave, it just skyrockets.
Yeah, book deals and lobbying. Yeah,
you ask about celebrity endorsements. In no way would I ever doubt the sincerity of Bernie's message. The pictures of him for racial justice and all the things long before any of this was an inkling in his eye,
gender rights, like everything.
Versus others, I would say 90% of politicians waver and give you I became more educated, more woke, whatever it is. Bernie has always felt this way, while the others, you wonder about their ethics and beliefs.
So can I ask you why that isn't enough to make you like a supporter of that person?
I respect him a tremendous amount. I just don't think that his plans are
Policy.
realistic enough without destroying a large part of tax base.
So what do you mean? Yeah, explain.
The thing that so often I feel left out of any of the calculations about taxation and everything. You can see it happening in Chicago now, whether it's the soda tax that went away because everyone stepped over the county line to buy all their stuff, and there's absolutely no revenue.
Yeah.
You look at all the people. Chicago's one of the few cities that is losing people, and it's the higher income because they're seeking lower taxes. When you talk about soaking the rich or taxing the rich or fair pricing, whatever particular part of the spectrum language you want to use,
right?
These are people with enough resources that they'll just go to the Cayman Islands. They'll just go to the Caribbean.
But will they though?
I think they will.
But I don't.
They're at least their financial worth, absolutely.
But that's where legislation comes into play, where we close the loopholes, right? So we're talking about it's a double-edged sword in the sense that these people are not supposed to win anymore. So people here sleep under a blanket of security, and that's why they're here, right? So they're not they're the rich. They don't want to go live anywhere else. They want to live right here. They're comfortable with all their money because we're protecting them with all their money, right? So they already have these tax havens to put these places in the Caymans and stuff like that. But that's only because the legislation allows them to do so.
Absolutely.
So I think the idea is to have some form of revolution, right? That where we start electing the right people in office. And I think the thing that gets missed with a lot of people about Bernie is that it's not. He says it's not me, us. Like that was, but that's like a real thing because it's not about him. It's about us. It's about the movement to have a government that finally actually works for us. And I know it's easy to say, but every movement started with someone saying something that everyone else thought was a really good idea. Right? Like when the settlers left from England and they were like, someone's like, yo, we should jump on this boat, right? And like, we should just like get out of here.
Started being persecuted.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And like, obviously some people were like, kind of, where you're at, where it's kind of like have all these reservations about it and all these reasons why it's never going to work. And there's other people that are just ready to die for the cause and they're like, let's do it. Right. And that's how we got civil rights. That's how we got women's rights. That's how we got gay rights. Like that's how we got anything that we have, even the labor movement and the 40-hour work week and the, safety standards and the workplace and stuff like that. Like that didn't happen just because, the politicians or powers that be were like, you know what? Everyone's been like real cool. Like we're just going to hook them up. We're going to give them like Saturday and Sunday off. You know what I mean? No, we had to fight for that. So I think that's kind of what I wish people would kind of like just take a step back and look at is it's not about the dude. I know people. Totally. Yeah. It's about like the idea that it should be better because I know for the entirety of my 34 years as an American here on this earth, other than like certain things, like a lot of things really haven't worked in my favor. Like I've had to work really hard to get where I'm at and make the right strategic moves. And I shouldn't have had to have worked that hard in this country with all of our resources and everything that we have. But what I do see is something that people talk about a lot is like the wealth gap. I've seen it. I can see it literally go like this. I see like, and you as a marketer, I mean, you should be able to see that people have less money to spend now than they did before. Your business thrives on disposable income. If you don't have money to buy the things that I'm trying to shove down your throat, then I go out of business because I have nothing to sell.
I'd argue, in a way, it's almost all disposable. Why everyone, or at least the mindset is, why everyone has a TV the size of the screen back here. It's why everyone has the $1,200 new iPhone. It's all viewed as that. And
do you think that people are doing that, though, because it's a comfort issue? Like, I think it's twofold, right? I think it's like a comfort issue. Like instead of a chicken in every pot kind of thing, it's like a TV in every living room. because it makes them like, they work freaking 2-3 jobs, some people, or even just their 140-hour job should be 40 hours, but it's never.
Right.
It's never. And so when they get home, they're just exhausted. Like, from what I've gathered thus far in my life, is Americans work. That's what we do. We work to live. We don't live to work. Something like that. I think I fucked
I'm
it
with
up.
you.
You know what I mean, right? Yeah. Like, other places of the world, like I believe it's France, 30 days paid vacation a year. Like, why don't we have that here? Our corporations are the most profitable in the world. And you mean to tell me?
That's why.
I know that, but that's what I'm saying. Let's start taking it back. Like, what's wrong with that? You'll still be just as profitable. So you, CEO Jamie Dimon, Chase Bank,
who was just talking about wealth inequality.
Bro, he's the
his
worst.
$31 million salary.
Exactly, dude. He's the worst. Did you see when he was being questioned? And I forget her name. It was a Democratic representative. And she had this story. And don't get me wrong. When these politicians come out with these stories, I take them with a grain of salt. But that's not to say that these people aren't real.
They're based in truth, but
yeah, but
like a Disney movie based on a true story.
Yeah, right. I would wager that oftentimes these are actual stories, though. And so she was talking about a young woman who had a child who lived, I believe, in San Francisco. And of course, they pick like the most extreme cases, but she basically broke down her salary, and she broke down like the living expenses, and she itemized the living expenses list. And I think the only like thing that maybe you would say is like the extra extravagant was like a cell phone, but it was like a $40 cell phone bill or something. Which now is we need,
that's a necessity, right? Totally.
Kind of is now, right? But, at the same time, a case could be made that you don't need a cell phone, but I get it. So, yeah, so everything on that list was not crazy. It was like food for the kid. It was like daycare for the kid, and housing and stuff like that. And again, a case could be made that like, well, you shouldn't have had a kid or whatever. But that's even if you were to, right. And even if you were to take the child out of the equation, that person's salary in that place was not even near enough to live in that place. But Jamie Dimon needs her to work in the bank. So why are you not paying her a living wage? And when she was telling him all this, you know what his response was?
Oh.
Bro, his response was, well, one day she could have my job. And literally, this is the mindset of the people at the top. They forget that the foundation of the few at the top is built on the backs of the many at the bottom. And, I understand that someone always has to be the butcher and someone always has to be the cow, right? But you don't got to treat the cow like shit before you kill it, right? And
free range.
Yeah, why not, right? And so that's what I mean when I say, companies will still be as profitable, if not more, right? If they do a little bit more for people at the bottom.
Was it Microsoft was just experimenting with the day work week, found productivity spiked.
We've been talking about that for a long time. Like
someone did something about it. I haven't seen a sizable company do something like that before with a whole workforce in whatever country. I know it's just limited to one, but still, that's talk about progress. These are baby steps.
No, yeah, and you're right, and we need those. I mean, it's just like it makes total sense. It's kind of like when people go on vacation and they come back, if they get to have vacation, because how many people do you know? Especially here in Chicago downtown, like when I worked at Oracle for a little while, I mean, some people, they had stacks of vacation days because they're like, yo, I can't leave. I got so much to do. It's like, why is this okay? Why is this allowed? Like, you're gonna give me vacation, but then literally there's like management, societal pressure that doesn't allow me to actually take those days.
Right.
And it's your job at the top, Mr. Jamie Dimon, or I believe at the time it was Mark Hurd for Oracle, to ensure that policies are in place and that oversight actually happens that ensures that your people can be people. We're not freaking robots, man. And you know what? Sending marketing emails, I get it. It's a thing. But shit, man, if I take a day off, it's not the end of the world,
I'm still going to rise tomorrow if you're not getting that discount email out.
They just act like the world's going to stop if like all these processes aren't just always in motion. So I think that goes back to like what I was saying about Bernie. It's just kind of like, it's like that idea. I think that's what I like about him, other than the fact that I've been watching him since I was a child.
Let me ask you this. You're talking about a whole movement. Need to replace a huge part of Congress and government and everything. do that, right or wrong, probably wrong, you need a lot of money to get elected.
Can I tell you?
Yes, because I want to know how to solve this.
Yeah, no, and you're right. And that is also a problem. So I wrote this paper on Citizens United when I was at DePaul, and I hadn't, that whole experience like really forced me to look at money in politics. And so that Supreme Court ruling kind of like jacked everything up and made it even worse than it would have been had we not had the results of corporations being people. Okay? So to your point, one thing that the media is not talking about right now, but that is public information, is that the only person that has over 1 million individual donors, it's 1.4 as of like, I don't know, 45 days ago, so it's probably more now. 1.4 million individual donors is Bernie Sanders. This man has taken $0 from corporations. He has a massive war chest, and it's all because people are ready. So when you ask, how do we get that money? We're ready to give it. You know, people are giving it.
But you're talking about one person.
No, I'm not. They did the same thing for Ocasio-Cortez. Do you know, like they talk about the squad, those 4 women? Those are the seeds. Those are the seeds starting to grow that Bernie has planted from 40 years ago when he entered office, started doing his thing. So I truly believe in the next 10 to 15 years, you're going to see this really massive influx of progressive candidates running, and not just running, but actually winning. Because that genuine stuff that we were talking about earlier, we're just tired of it. Like, listen, we see it everywhere, right? And the thing was, before, you had to go and look, or when you were talking about looking for things, before you had to go look for politics, right? So meaning you either watch CNN or you just kicked it on Fox, like not Fox News, but like The Simpsons animation domination Friday Night Fox, right? Like that, right?
Yeah.
But now you can't avoid it. It's everywhere. The political sphere is in your face somehow. And that was something I said on the last episode, is why I started this, you know? While we're not all politically active, we're all affected by politics personally. And so it is time for everybody to kind of wake up. And I think that's one of the good things I'll give Trump credit for. I'll give him credit for a couple of things. But I'll definitely give him credit for making a lot of people wake up, because we've been really apathetic to the voting process for a very long time. And now there's people, whether you think it's flavor of the month shit or not, but they're actually active and saying things and being opinionated. And we needed that. We needed something to like wake the beast. You know what I mean?
Well, you talk about authenticity. I would argue Republican Bernie Sanders, because
he is. Exactly. That's why he got elected.
Totally.
Yeah, and that's why Bernie got elected too. So that was the thing. I truly believe 2016, if Bernie was a nominee, I truly believe he would have won. And all the polls said it too. So it'd be interesting to see.
DNC didn't want it.
They didn't want it. How did you feel about that? Did you see that whole thing happen in real time? Did you feel like the DNC actually had a concerted effort to?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Especially when those emails came out and those other things. Just the sheer power that the Clintons have.
Wild, right?
Yeah.
So you think that they killed Jeffrey Epstein because the Clintons were involved?
I certainly don't think he killed himself, and I love how Reddit, in even the most innocuous comment these days, and Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself.
Oh my God, I know. I love that about the internet. The free flow of information has definitely elevated my life.
But here's a challenge to you.
Yeah.
Reddit and others, almost single-handedly versus mainstream, are carrying the torch around Jeffrey Epstein. Haven't seen one thing being
right.
They're carrying the torch nonstop for the Hong Kong protesters.
Yes, they are. All the protests, Chile, everywhere.
But especially Hong Kong, where
yeah.
it's escalated. I haven't seen anyone acting on it.
Yeah.
And I feel that's the hard thing about whether it's just online media, social media, or thing. It distances people a lot of times.
Take your time.
It makes them think that a simple action like a like or an upvote is supporting and doing something.
Right.
And it's been really surprising to me with how high profile both of those things are. no one on either side that I know of is really talking who has any power.
Well,
because they both have a tremendous amount to live.
I think I think part of it is it's like the me. I call it the me syndrome. If it doesn't affect me, I don't care, right? So, like for instance, if the iPhone factory shut down, if Foxconn was under siege from protest, and the next iPhone release was going to be halted or thwarted, I think people would care. Here, you know what I mean? Because it affects them.
Don't care about 10-year-olds making their cell phone.
Yeah, they don't. They don't care about.
That's where, again, I have a hard time equating actions and things. Yeah. I hope the seed grows. I hope that a more altruistic, authentic thing goes. But Apple is my number one thing. Steve Jobs himself never gave to charity.
He was not a nice dude.
No.
Everyone loves that guy.
He mandated that Apple not have any CSR. Dude, and that continues through, where now they're being accused of bias, where husbands are getting significantly more credit on the Apple credit card than their wives.
Saw that. Or just women in general were being suppressed from getting higher limits. It's
well known how they get their phones made in China. Nobody cares.
Dude, you remember when they put the nets around the building?
Yes.
And it was like a blip in the radar.
Yeah, no.
It was just, and that's when it really, like, don't get me wrong, full disclosure, I have a MacBook, I have Apple products. Yeah. And so that's like that balancing that we're talking about, where it's like, I want to, I like nice things. I like a certain style of operating. I mean, I have both. I have Windows. But at the same time, and I appreciate you saying the challenge for you is because that is, like when we were shooting just like test videos before, it was my uncle and I were in here and another individual. We started talking about the protests and stuff like that. And I want to continue to do that in a different, not only in this format, but also on like a solo format, because you're right. The things that I personally feel really matter the most are things that, like, the Reddit community are the ones, like, even when we police brutality, things like that makes the rounds on Reddit all the time.
Totally.
And so, like, I see this picture that oftentimes I wish other people could see. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that I have the right answer or that I have the final verdict or whatever, but I'm purposefully exposing myself to more information, which sometimes is to my own detriment because I don't get any sleep, right? Because I'm just like consuming information.
It's easy.
Easy. I love it. It's like my favorite food. But yeah, so good.
So I just made this term up, but I feel like right now.
Like right now?
Totally right now.
Okay,
while you were talking, I was like, I got
breaking news.
I feel like the gap between information, meaningful action, growing at a scary speed. Because, again, of course I followed the homeless kittens getting kicked off of roofs type of thing, because I care.
Yeah.
But was anything done? And did they stop?
Well, you didn't kick him off, right? You stopped. You just stopped kicking him off, though. When
I'm
you
thinking
saw
about it. More a dog person, though.
No, I hear you. You're right.
But even on Reddit, and again, I don't know what the answer. Same thing. I can't go and knock on people's doors and ask them, did you strangle Jeffrey Epstein?
Yeah.
But it feels like it's just died on the vine versus even. I think everything's 2-3 years ago, but I think it was a little bit longer than that when
more like 2-3 minutes.
Yeah. Well, when Reddit orchestrated the internet blackout around that free
the photo. Was it the photo of the?
No, it was the free internet.
Oh, you're talking about for net neutrality.
Thank you.
Yeah, with IGPI, the communications.
They got Wikipedia, they got Forbes, they got so many to jump on. There's where meaningful action came on.
Yeah. Well, because Reddit, the people on Reddit are the ones that like run tech.
Oh, totally.
You know what I mean?
But that's like, what I'm saying. But why isn't a thing being done for China? Why or Hong Kong?
So because I think here's the thing. Like what do you want? I mean, do you want to like don gear and go over there and just fight the police? But that's the thing. Like, what can we do? It's our gut. See, and that's the thing where it's important for us as citizens to do our civic duty and to elect the right officials in the office, because it's my government's job on our behalf to fight the fight that we feel is in the best interest globally, which, again, some people have chosen sides, Hong Kong or China. Everyone's trying to figure out, right? But it's the government's job to sort that out because we're pressuring them internally. We still have to do something, but I can't pick up a gun or I can't fly to Hong Kong. I mean, I could go fly to Hong Kong for a week and then I'm broke because I can work here.
Right, or bruised in a hospital. But
right, which,
but
I can talk about it.
I would argue you can. I would argue that in theory, talk too.
Yeah, no, I'm saying,
but
I would argue
I
that
you can stop buying Chinese products. The common thread through everything that I've seen is that they're this powerful because we outsource so much to them that we have let them get away with these things. I mean, they're doing genocide to Muslims that has come out.
Yep. And I mean, they've been holding Tibet hostage for how long?
And yet you go to any retailer, any dollar store.
Any dollar store,
and everything's coming from.
So that's that consumerism edge that I was talking about, right?
Totally.
It's like,
right, Mr. Apple guy.
Yeah. No, I know, but that's what I'm saying. It's part of it. It to my credit, okay? I bought this MacBook. It's 2015. I bought it a long time ago when I was in school.
Okay.
And then I've had it ever since. I have no plans on upgrading until it dies. I got the watch as a graduation gift. And I got the phone because I'm going to use it for production for my business. And I had an iPhone 7 before. So, but I hear you. I'm just
I have these
in
things
my mind, that were made
a rationale.
Yeah.
I mean,
like why?
Yeah. And
every phone is made in China, by the way. Find me a phone that's not made there. But you just said a cell phone is an imperative. So where do I find a cell phone?
It totally is. Right? I think
a BlackBerry in Canada? RIM is dead.
You know, this is the second time I've talked about BlackBerry today.
Dude, they're coming back. They made a phone with a keyboard. They made another one. No, not the original one.
The QWERTY thing?
Yeah, I think it was like a year and a half ago. They were coming out with, an updated.
I lunched with my dad, who's retired, and all he does is look at stocks and investment opportunities.
Oh, really? Is he killing
very
it still?
good. Yeah, he's doing.
Oh yeah, but can you hook me up? Because
well, in one of the companies, we had lunch today. And he's looking at BlackBerry, who is trading for like $5.
Yeah.
And he was telling me how much that they have changed. They're more into encryption and security now. And I just find it bizarre that I haven't talked about BlackBerry in probably 2 or 3 years and twice in one day.
Well, it's funny. So the thing is, most people Research in Motion, RIM, that's the parent, that's BlackBerry's company. So yeah, I mean, they're doing what a lot of companies have had to do to survive, which is they retool and reconfigure what it is that they do and what their offerings are. I mean, you look at like Motorola, right? They went from being a handset maker to like literally being like strictly like back end, parts for electronics and stuff like that. And then they also have I believe consulting services and things like that.
There's a new Razor coming though?
I did not. Oh, here we go. Is there a new Razor?
Game on. Yeah, there is.
Game on.
There's been a few leaked photos of it.
So is it running Android? I think that's what happened to all of them, was that, obviously Google entered the cell space, but not even with hardware, they entered with software. And when they entered with software, they forced handset makers to do two things: to either adopt it or just die.
The Microsoft model of letting whoever wants to use Windows. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And Microsoft
now he's curing malaria.
My guy. I remember they had something where it was for toilets or something.
Yeah.
What was it? Right. That's all kinds of stuff, like toilets and water and
in the most basic things, and yet it changes a community's whole world.
Well, that's the thing, right? So, he's allowed to have a lot of money, right? But because he's doing a lot of nice things. But the thing is, we're not telling him how much he gets to keep. What is that number? I don't know what that number is. But I would be in favor of going forward, putting a limit on certain things, whether it's a corporation itself or whether it's actual individual positions. My belief about that, because everyone always pushes back and says, well, where's the motivation to succeed? Come on, man. You mean to tell me if I told you that the max you could ever make in your lifetime was $3 million, and that, you want this job for 3 million? You'd be like, nah, I'm cool. I'll just chill here at like 75,000. No, you'd still take that job, right? And I hope that you would find purpose in your life by enabling others to find happiness in their lives as well. Because again, your job at the top is to ensure that these self-appointed followers have everything they need to live fruitful lives. And I think that's a problem. We're so money driven that we think the only thing that makes us happy is money and more stuff. You know what makes me really happy, like really freaking happy, is making other people happy. And I know it sounds so fucking cliche, man, but there's like seriously like nothing brings more joy into my life than like doing something that like helps other people or like makes them happy. And I'm not saying I'm like I don't volunteer every weekend at a shelter or nothing like that. I'm not saying that. But like, not that I wouldn't, but it's just like this simple.
Busy kicking cats off roofs.
No, man, I'm trying to like make a living. This dude, starting a business is no joke. I'm not even gonna lie. It's rough. But like even like when I was in the military, you know, like just ensuring that like the people around me were like comfortable and stuff, you know, or like, you know, just I don't know, just everyday things that I do now, you know, just like simple things, holding the door for somebody, you know, and they like put a smile on it, especially here in Chicago. I grew up in Texas, right? And in Texas, like Southern hospitality is a real thing, right? We don't care what the hell you look like. We don't care what the fuck you do. Like you get our kindness because that's just what we do. Manners and up here, man, it's like, wow, it's just like what happened. You know,
had more
I know
people
what happened.
slam the door lately on me, and it's not the way I was raised. And you go from such a small movement, but it speaks volume.
Exactly, right? And so so those are the things that make me happy. The small things, the big things, the everything. And so I would like to think that we can get back to a place where people are no longer money motivated and they're like emotionally motivated, right? Like as a marketer, invoke that in me, you know, not to buy something, but to do something. So I think marketing and advertising for social good could be something really credible. And it's not like, sorry, go ahead.
No, it could. I'm not arguing that.
But where's the money in that?
Well, no, my counter is, at least my perceptions of them, the Elon Musks and the Jeff Bezos of the two.
Do you put them in the same?
Somewhat.
Okay,
because
sorry I cut you off.
They have revolutionized, completely changed entire industries, ecosystems of how cultures, etc.
But ethically, I'm saying ethically, you put them in the same vein.
No, I think Bezos is his own animal, but my mind, you'd be hard pressed, I think, to find someone more influential in people's everyday lives.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that, I think, has been made possible by money, by investing. Innovation is not cheap. Elon Musk, and you're right to your point, though. Bezos has never, for Amazon for ages, never cared about making profit. But that was a company.
That was his business tactic.
Not his personal tactic.
Yeah, that was not because he didn't want to make money. That was because it's ROI. So meaning, and it's funny because actually at DePaul, I'll give a shout out to Frigo, Dr. Frigo, and Professor Littman. They created the strategy, execution, evaluation, concentration for the MBA program. And one of the things that they did was they did research, and I'm sorry if I butcher this, but I'll get the right idea out, is basically they did research over the past 30 years of the top performing companies. And then they put together this framework of what like creates the best companies and how the best ones did the best things and they had longevity. Because if you think 30 years throughout, I mean, there's only a handful of companies that have been around that long. Companies come and go. And I mean, we're talking like big, like Enron came, a lot of money, but gone in a flash, right? So one of the things was that companies that continuously reinvested everything they made had far greater longevity and profits later on in their life. So Amazon was one of the big ones that we looked at, and it was actually our project, and that's what they did. But that's why they were so successful, and growing because they weren't concerned with making money. They were concerned with just continuously growing. And it's kind of like one of those things where it's kind of like when a virus feeds on a host, and then you can't get rid of the virus because it's just embedded in everything. I mean, that's kind of how Amazon is right now. It's just like embedded in everything.
Yes.
And even if they went bankrupt, all the remnants of all those things would just still linger and still be a part of everything.
With true respect to put that study together of anyone looking 30 years.
Yeah.
Look at Good to Great. There isn't a single company in Good to Great that is still in any kind of financial shape. And these were, when I got my MBA, that was the Bible.
Good to
Following these late. Two of the biggest companies that they held up for reinventing themselves, Xerox and Western Union. And I just think that live in such a fast-paced business world that even beyond 10 years, I think the next 10 years will be way more interesting because look at what's happened to all these IPOs. These companies that for years had thought they could launch with billions of dollars in losses can't anymore. I mean, whether it's Uber and Lyft stock plummeting, whether it's WeWork,
yeah,
I mean,
wild.
It's crazy.
I think that's where WeWork tried the Amazon business model and just totally fucked it up.
Right.
Like, because real estate is so it fluctuates, right?
Yeah, just ask Sears.
Yeah, and I think that's where WeWork got it wrong. Well, also in the sense that, and it was Reddit actually, a Redditor posted something probably about, I don't know, 3 weeks ago. And it was like, I went to WeWork this morning and there was like bagels, like catered food everywhere, people having a party, and like a DJ. And it was 9 o'clock in the morning. And they're like, maybe this is why WeWork isn't making any money. You know, like I think it was mostly hinging on the DJ being there.
Yeah.
But it makes total sense. Like, you know, it's cool to have a party and I want to party too, but you know, definitely business minded. I don't think that was the best idea. So
I mean, they probably read somewhere that
if you build it, they will come.
Want experience. But they just did it really poorly.
Yeah, no, they read that millennials want experience.
Oh, yes.
Which I'll be honest with you,
it's
man.
Flights, not feelings.
Flights, not feelings, but flights conjure feelings, though. Yeah, as long as, but see, that's the thing. Like when we go back to Instagram, it's like I feel like a lot of people are just doing things to flex on each other, and it's kind of shitty. Yeah, they're like taking flights to places, and you know what's funny is they're all going to the same place though, which I find to be incredibly ironic. Like, how about you do something cool, like go to like, I don't know, Bolivia or something. You know what I mean? Like,
I'd say selfies on the beaches of Antarctica.
That'd be kind of chilly.
Awesome.
That'd be really cool. Yeah, chilly. Okay, so you talked about Western Union. That made me think. So what do you feel about cryptocurrency?
I think that it had a few steps back. I mean, I know that you're far more an expert in that than I am. I think it can still be a thing. I think that...
Sorry, go ahead.
I feel like so many entering the market have done what any new technologies or new things have done, in that it's convoluted it completely. Mm-hmm. One or two will rise to the top, and that'll be the universal one. But now everyone from what's Facebook's Libra or something, and I mean,
they were scared of that. You know that governments are really scared of that because of the sheer number of people on the Facebook platform. Yeah. Like, imagine like a new country just popping up with its own currency. Like, that would shake the world economy. And for Facebook to be like literally overnight one of the largest world, currencies, like they would never let that happen. And they should have just launched it the same way that, like, remember how we woke up one day and there were scooters everywhere?
Yes.
Well, it was a little more controlled here in Chicago, but in other places they did that. Like scooters just thrown out there and then everyone just had to deal with it later. I think for things like that, like I think if you're talking about disruptive tech, especially with tech, right? Because tech is one of those things where it's like a Pandora's box. And it's kind of like, as long as you're absolutely sure you're not going to go to jail for it, just go for it.
Luck's not sure of that anymore for anything.
Well, he's so weird, man.
The Snap guys should have launched it. I feel like they would. They care less.
Do. Well, okay, you're right. You can send money through Snapchat.
Yeah, I mean their own currency.
That's not their own currency.
I feel like they have the mindset where Zuck now is. I saw he's meeting with Democrats, Republicans.
Well, he's
now
trying to save it all.
Absolutely.
Well, because Warren is starting the conversation about breaking them up. Which, here's the thing, man. Like, I remember, like, I was born in '85. I don't remember the exact year. Obviously, I was a child, but I know that's when the Bell Corporation was broken up, and they made Southwestern Bell and all that shit, right? And then somewhere halfway between my life, they just all got right back together and formed AT&T.
Yep,
right? All back. And then the same thing started happening with all these other companies in the sense that they're getting so big. And why do we have a handful of banks that control our economy in 2008 so that we had to bail them out? They should have just let them fail, right? Like, if it's too big to fail, like, that should never be a thing. So here we are again with these massive tech companies, which, you know, I think it's one of those things where it's like, if Tesla ever became as big as Facebook, I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world. But Facebook being Facebook as big as it is probably not the best thing in the world.
Well, it kills me. You talk about antitrust. Think about Bill Gates and Microsoft to feel like he's a common thing.
Too? Yeah.
I mean, they brought them for just simply putting Explorer as a default browser. I mean, look at what all these other companies. I feel like in a way we're going full circle to.
No, I was gonna say Apple with the way they have their closed system.
Well, even going back to I don't remember. I feel it was something around the candidate about how things have always happened and kind of been swept under the rugs. And once in a while something comes up and gets dealt with, and then 10 years later things way worse are happening. Yeah.
There's a gentleman. His name is Louis Rossmann. So he has a repair shop very similar to that. And his fight right now is the right to repair. So he repairs Apple products, mainly MacBooks. And literally from all over the country, for sure. I don't know if he takes international, but I'm sure he does. He started this YouTube channel. He's got a ton of subscribers. He gets a ton of views. And he's pretty brash, but he's actually pretty interesting to watch. And I don't know, he's cool. He's a cool dude. I'm sure, nobody's perfect though, right? But so what happened was he was repairing the Apple products, and then Apple tried to shut him down. And so he took it to the courts. And so now he's actively, and he's been doing it for a couple of years. He's actively fighting for the right for us to repair our products where we would like to. And so that's why Apple does things like solder the RAM to the board. So you can't upgrade your RAM unless you do it when you buy the thing. Whereas, other Windows products or Acer, HP, whatever you buy, I mean, I can take that device as long as I can technologically, meaning I can change the hard drive to SSD. I can upgrade the RAM because Windows is like 100 gigs now. Do you know that?
Massive.
It's crazy. Yes. It's great. So anyways, Louis Rossmann, he's a cool dude. Check him out, Louis Rossmann.
That's cool. I love stories like that. I mean, even the Nissan guy. If you go to Nissan.com, it's not the car company. Nissan has been suing this poor guy
website
for decades, I think, at this point, for his URL. And the guy's just stubborn dude, and it's like, nope, it's my name.
That's so funny.
Love it.
I would have sold that a long time ago. I would have probably cut a deal where it was like, all right, you guys are gonna make cars. I'll take some cash up front, and then I want a new car every 2 years for 20 years. 10 cars and some cash. They get to make deals. Why can't I make deals?
Right.
Yeah. That's pretty interesting. So anything else interesting going on in your life, or something else you'd like to hit before we get out of here?
We've done so much.
That's the idea.
I think. Yeah, I don't know. What's top of mind for you? If it's not politics, you're doing your own business now.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
I appreciate it.
I've done it a couple of times. I know it sucks.
I guess I have a lot to learn from you on that aspect.
Neither one worked out. Don't learn.
I'll say I'm finding two things in my space. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a package, almost everything has a subscription service, right? And this isn't so much a subscription as much as it's just kind of a clear-cut package for small businesses. Well, any business really that would like to contract with me. But video production costs a lot of money, right?
Good video
production costs a lot of money. And I'm not the best, given that I just started this, in January of this year. So I'm aware of that, right? But it's definitely good enough, and it's definitely good enough that other people were like, "Yo, are you the one doing this?" Right? So that was the whole reason why I started it, because other people started asking me. Otherwise, I probably just would have used the MBA and like went to Accenture or something, like,
Well,
got some mileage. So what I was going to say was I put together this package, right? So for like a monthly fee, which isn't that much, 2 videos, like 10 to 15 photos, active management of your social media and your other external communication channels. So
like
that
community management too, responding.
Yes.
Wow.
I call it 16/7 because I got to sleep 8 hours a day. So 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm logged into
Kinda good
all
at
your
this marketing stuff.
right.
Like
So
that.
yeah, so I'm logged into all your stuff, right? And when someone, so we know there's the automated response for Facebook, right? Like when you message a business and they're like, hey, right? So I have a touch time of less than 3 hours, right? And so, I ensure that if I'm not available, that someone else that I'm working with is available to cover that. But more often than not, like I said, I mean, because it's me, it's full stack and I'm doing it all myself. Like I'm there, right? I'm there. So I'm finding it hard to, and this was something that Professor Stewart in the Pratt program at DePaul taught me, or taught all of us. And she said, Professor Stewart and I think another Professor Davis, I think also echoed those same words. It was that you're going to constantly have to justify your job. Like businesses normally don't understand the value of strategic communications and sometimes marketing. They see, well, I pay this person $15 an hour to do this thing. They're bringing me money. But they don't understand that your investment into these things like communication and visuals and that stuff can oftentimes, the idea is that it has a higher return than the person that's just fixing this thing over and over again. That is your bread and butter, So that's the kind of space that I'm in right now. So question to you is like, how do you find best to break down that barrier and kind of like make people understand that like there really is value to spending money that is hard to quantify in the back end?
I'll be honest, and I'm going to give you the answer that you probably don't want. I think that time has passed.
Yeah.
And you brought up Accenture. Their most recent survey of all these is that marketing now is being expected to bring in the most financial growth and financial revenue. Everything that we would do in my last role had to have some type of quantifiable. And you're talking in communication. This is not direct marketing. This isn't the email returns.
Right.
So I think that it has to. Now, you and I know it does have value. So there just have to at times be creative about what value it does have. Greatest words, any kind of report to a client, a boss, whatever it is, contributed to. So one of your clients has best month ever, and you have a handful of comments on there saying, wow, this is great, I'm staying with your company, or I'm buying more, or something like that. If you can then look for any other signals, you can put that up there and be like, we are contributing to this momentum. One of the things, you asked one of my proudest.
Yeah.
If we're talking about this, it was finding a way to map just about any marketing, whether it's PR, whether it's response-based search, to the McKinsey consumer journey. So when we would report, it wouldn't just be, here's your impressions, click-throughs, et cetera. It would be a narrative of, here's the awareness now and how we affected it, the change in the delta. Here's the consideration. Here's the conversion and the opportunity.
Yeah.
Knowing that you're managing these digital channels, with the right resources, but they're there.
Infantry Atlas, I remember you showed us that.
Well, even Facebook, what they can do through
their
off-channel, in-store, offline kind of transactions is pricey, but it can be done. So I think whenever you're able to actually couch it in business terms, even if it's, you brought up before, corporations and companies exist to make money or save money while they're making.
Right.
If you can show either one, you're golden. You're justifying your price increases.
Yeah. And I think so for me, I think, if I'm already in a space where they kind of understand, like you touched on like corporations, right? Knowing that marketing is this expense. And so they expect this form of, data-driven, clearly defined return, right? Tell me how you made it. And so with small businesses, I'm not saying that the same thing can't be accomplished, but the small business person doesn't have the marketing mindset. Like they don't, and that's where my barrier is, because as a small startup, I'm building my portfolio as much as, I can. And so it's kind of one of those things where it's like, getting those first few clients is always going to be the hardest, right? Because they're kind of like, they're taking a shot on you. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like a Hail Mary kind of thing. And so but to what you were saying earlier, I had someone recently tell me, where they took a break because they said they were incredibly busy right now, which is like shooting myself in the foot, right? Because I did my job. I did my job. But then now they think that because they got the ball rolling, they don't want to continue the ball.
Care of itself.
I think it would, because I actually told someone that the other day. I said, because they'll probably just call me back.
Yeah.
Once it starts dying down again.
There's going to be a lull, or they want to have an upward trajectory. So business being high in October, November, hopefully for their ambitions and yours, is not high enough for next November.
Yeah. Ideally so. Yeah. And plus I think, because really I had just got in there and I just started this wave. And and I'm not saying that what I'm doing is anything like revolutionary or, incredibly outlandish. I do understand the value that I bring as far as like strategic communication with how I message.
Sure.
And that to me is my art form, right? How I curate a message. But at the same time, the things that I create for people, I mean them to be incredibly basic. Because for me, I've always felt that there's no sense in sending a message that will never be received. So if I'm talking over you and not to you, I've just wasted my time. I've wasted their money, all this stuff. So yeah, but it's been fun. It's definitely fun and interesting.
My biggest piece of advice, and I really hit the stride in my last role where I had to sell an entirely new function, way of thinking. As painful as it is, showing versus telling does millions of. You can have a 20-point PowerPoint deck on great stats and figures, why you should do it. Here's a testimonial from your biggest competitor. But man, if you just spend a little bit of time with some spec work, it just more often than not sells itself.
Yeah. What else sells itself? Cocaine.
Oh, it does really bring this full circle. I like how you did
that.
Yeah.
Shit? All right. Well, I think that's cool because I definitely want to have you come back if you want to come back.
Oh, yeah, it's fun.
And so we'll save a bunch of this stuff for later. So cool. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.